Hello everyone. I know it's been a little while, it's probably about a week since I made a video, and I haven't been making a whole lot lately. A lot's been going on and just haven't felt the best. And so I apologize for that. So thought I'd make a video. Last time was a little bit more vague because I just got out of the hospital and didn't have quite all the information. And in reality, I still don't. My liver doctor went on vacation, so I guess we're waiting until next week. However, though, I wanted to talk about today about not giving up because sometimes if there's a lot of unanswered questions and we feel like we're never going to get the answers or we're never going to figure out, you know, what's going on or why we have this or, the age old question of why me, right? I kind of made it a point never to ask that question, why me? Because I guess why not me? Because somebody's got to be sick, right? I mean, if it didn't happen to me, it happened to somebody else, and I guess kind of is what it is in a way. So we kind of roll with what we got and keep on rolling on and fighting on and keep on going. Um, but however, though, my name's Neil, if you haven't been to my videos, and I have liver cirrhosis. This video has been about my journey. I am not a doctor. I am not a medical professional. Um, I destroy the human language or the English language quite often by not saying certain words right. It's probably going to happen more than once, but I do my best. With that said, this is my story and situations that have happened to me. I do recommend always doing your research and always checking more than one source on everything. Because there are many people out there and many sources, and this disease hits people in different ways. I don't think that there's one particular one that's exactly the same next to the other. Um, so, I mean, there's a lot in common, but there's a lot of other things that maybe some people have that other people don't. Like, my fluid built up in my right lung and not in my stomach, really. I mean, I did get some in my stomach, but, for liver disease, it's more common that you get the ascites on the abdomen, and mine was in the right lung. It really didn't go into the abdomen much other than the first time. But I had the lung drained like 9 times, and I had a chest tube in and everything else. So we're all a little bit different. With that said, in the journey to figure out what's going on, I never quite understood why I wound up with cirrhosis. Um, I I drank for probably about 2 years, and I literally didn't touch a drink for probably 13 years prior. Not even a sip, not even the occasional, weekend wine or a can of beer or something. That I never did. Went through some situations, made some poor choices, and uh, wound up drinking kind of heavily. And everyone says to me, in 2 years, that's too short of a time for this to happen. Well, it did. Um, However, though, I always believed that there was something else that kind of contributed to it. I did know that liver disease ran in the family. I also found out that I had a mutated gene in the HHE, which is the part of your body that controls the iron and how the iron gets, distributed and gets held. So I do know that there was some iron overload going on for a while. But when I was really sick, I'd had multiple blood transfusions, and that's how they get rid of that anyway. So things seemed to get a little bit better after that, but I never quite understood because, yeah, I had this disease and it was extremely bad. I mean, to the point where most people that get the symptoms I had, um, a little more than a year ago, well, going on, what, 2 years now? Yeah. Yeah, going on 2 years, well, a year and a half. Um, so people who get those symptoms, like, fluids continuously filled up, constantly getting infections, high meld scores and everything else, I shouldn't have survived it. But then all of a sudden things started kind of evening out. Um, I mean, it'll never go away. I mean, I can have good times over, some of the bad times, and we all can, by eating right and by exercising and staying positive and doing those different things that we do in the process to be able to keep going. So I never quite understood because it kind of dissipated. I was able to go back to work for about 6 months, which was great. And my legs kept on getting, the ascites on my legs. And, my ammonia kept spiking on me. So I would have like little bouts of confusion and shaking and sleeplessness and things like that. But nothing major. About a year ago, I think it was about a year ago. Yeah, about a year ago. I noticed that I was having some trouble swallowing. Like some of the food would feel like it got stuck, but I would have to drink like excess water and it would push it down. And somebody, a doctor once said it's probably a hiatal hernia or something like that. But they said, the hiatal hernia, had healed up, quite a bit, and it really wasn't protruding into anything. So they ran a bunch of tests and didn't say much about it. They added Botox to it, and I was able to swallow a little better. All of a sudden, about 2 weeks ago, I couldn't even drink water. I took a drink of water and it would sit in my esophagus and wouldn't go down. Nothing would go down. It would just come back up. So I would, take a drink and back up it would come. So from that point, I wasn't able to get any food in, couldn't take any medicines, nothing. If I sipped on some water and let it sit in my esophagus, in about 20-25 minutes or so, the water would dissipate into my stomach. Eventually, kind of like a little hourglass trickle, I guess. But other than that, I really wasn't getting anything. So I started going to the ER, the local ERs, and my liver doctor's about 3.5 hours from me. So I couldn't really go there, and I don't really have much money, and I recently bought a car, so you add a car payment to it, and all of a sudden at the end of the month I got 2 nickels to rub together, and that's about it, if that. A lot of times you go without, but you do what you got to do because I needed a car. So but anyway, so I'd gone around to the different ERs, and I went to 2 different ERs twice. And I went in there telling them I wasn't able to eat, I couldn't swallow. I had pain in my upper abdomen right below the rib cage, kind of near the liver area. And I didn't know what it was. I was thinking the liver was hurting. I mean, why is my liver hurting? Because, for what liver disease is, and liver disease is pretty nasty, it generally doesn't have a lot of pain associated with it. Just uncomfortableness, weakness, tiredness, all that stuff. And they would do a CT scan, tell me they didn't find anything, send me home. And this happened 4 times in a row. And finally, at this point, I was so run down. It had been 4 days now since I'd eaten, and I was turning yellow. Again, my bilirubins had jumped up, when they did the blood test. And finally, I went back to the first ER, and I went looking for this one doctor that I knew. And I begged him to call my liver doctors, the hospital there. So we did. And they said to send me down. So, they didn't have a room available. So he wanted me to stay in the ER, overnight until a room happened. And so the morning, the doctors changed and everything. And by the way, in this little bit of a nightmare story, I'm sure that some of you have gone through the same thing, especially when it comes to liver disease, because a lot of times the ER doctors, they don't know anything about the liver disease. Sometimes they'll try to give you things that you shouldn't have. Like I'll go in and they'll instantly try to give me a bunch of fluids, and it's like, don't do that. Yeah, that's just going to build up on me. Why are you giving me tons of fluid? But if you're dehydrated, you need it, so I have this thing where I just keep getting sent back, and I know there's something wrong. So the next morning, this doctor comes in and wants to send me to a different hospital because the bed wasn't ready or what have you. And I had said that I was waiting for the hospital liver doctor to transfer me. And they said, well, there's no bed available and we can't really do anything here because we're a small hospital. Why don't you go to this other hospital? And I'm like, well, am I still being transferred to the liver hospital? And he said, yeah, well, when a bed opens. I said, okay, then that's fine. And then the story had changed because the driver came in and told me that my insurance probably wasn't going to cover it because I was told I was totally fine to drive to the other hospital by myself and that there wasn't anything wrong with me. And, at this point, I was so frustrated. I just lost it, it was like I felt so defeated at that moment. It's like I'm calling out, I'm crying over that. I'm just begging for help. And, and once again, it's like I don't get taken serious. And they're just, you know, acting like there's nothing wrong with me and I'm faking it or something. Now, meanwhile, I look like a bad colored pumpkin. My skin has changed. My eyes are turning yellow. You can see that my bilirubins jumped from like 2.5 all the way up to like 7. And, my INR jumped all the way up, to like 2.0. And, if you don't know INR, it's basically your blood clotting factor. It's one of the main things they use to figure the MELD score and some other things with it. So anyway, they transferred me to this other hospital and, it just gets worse from there. And the battle gets worse. And, and my roommate, unfortunately, had passed away that night. And, the hospital had, the staff was like, well, what do? We weren't trained for this. And I'm supposed to feel confident here, right? And the next day I expressed how I felt, and I was told that there was a word for that. It's called hypochondria. And I'm like, appreciate that. Thanks. And then when I told them that, my I have to have the proteins, and he's like, well, your proteins are high, and so is your albumin. And I said, I haven't eaten in 5 days. I said, why do you think my protein and my albumin's high? My body's eating itself. My muscles are going low. I lost 25 pounds in the 5 days. And so finally it got to the point where I called someone and they came and picked me up. And I literally unscrewed the IV, checked myself out. They drove me to the liver hospital. We got there in the middle of the night. They got me into the ER. They had me having the EGD, the scope done within like 8 hours. And what they did was they stretched the esophagus. They did 6 rounds of Botox. They couldn't get my esophagus to paralyze. It was overreacting still. So it keeps squeezing and twisting, and it's extremely painful when it does that. And they told me that was dysphagia. Dysphagia is basically it's the ability unable to swallow. It's like blockage, which can happen from a foreign item, something swelling, physical things, and then it also can be neurological. So I was there for a couple days. The next day, I was able to get some soft food in. It took some time, but I was able to eat again, but it's very slowly, and I can only eat certain things. I now have to sleep sitting up because there's a little, my esophagus is, completely has a mind of its own. And there's that little flap, which I don't know what the name of it is. Again, not a doctor, that shuts off the esophagus when you're breathing, and then the opposite when you're swallowing. Well, if I'm laying down flat, that little flap will swing shut, and I'll wake up gasping for air. And let me tell you, when you wake up in the middle of the night not breathing, that's a whole nother level of panic when it first happens. Let's just say that was an interesting night, and it kept happening. And finally, they had told me that I need to sleep sitting up, and that hasn't happened since I started sleeping sitting up. I I had to go out and get a new chair to be able to sleep in, which cost way too much money. Um, but once again, at least I'm able to sleep. So, a little debt is worth it to be able to sleep. Trust me. Uh, so anyway, they had done a biopsy. They have to make sure it's not any kind of like tumor or anything like that. Which it looks like that came out negative, which leaves it to be neurological. And based on everything we had, the only other option is something called scleroderma. Now I'm waiting for the official diagnosis. I have to go in as soon as he gets back so that I can get all that going. But basically, and I don't have all the information on this, so I'll give more once I have a actual answer. But like I said, right now that's not 100%, but it looks like that's the way it's leaning towards. Basically, it's a type of arthritis, but what it does, it attacks the skin. So it makes your skin thick, but my version of it attacks the internal organs, which would explain the liver. It also explains the esophagus. Also it can make it difficult to breathe. It'll turn basically the lungs into like glass eventually. It can damage the heart. It's not it's not great. We'll put it that way. But that would totally explain why all of a sudden my liver just started acting fairly, I won't say normal because it definitely doesn't act normal, but I was able to get a break for a good year before things got really bad. So that would explain that. And once I have more information, I will make another video on this. I promise. Appreciate all the kind comments. Even the ones that was giving me a hard time because I didn't give them an answer last time. Bear with me. I'm not great at this video thing. I'm doing the best I can. Heck, I don't even know how to like edit these things. I just hit record and upload it. So if I mess up, I have to start over from the beginning because all I have is a phone. But I do the best I can with what I got, I guess. So, but anyway, long story short, don't give up. Keep advocating for yourself. Keep fighting. Keep trying. Keep going. Don't stop. If you know there's something going on and somebody's not listening, find somebody else. There's an old adage, the squeaky wheel gets the grease, and it's true. I had to go to 5 ERs before, winding up where I need to go. And it was a battle. I mean, it was over 5 days. Total altogether was a good, 10, 11 days down between ERs and staying in the hospital and everything else. But being able to, eat again, that's a bonus. So, but anyway, yeah, keep fighting, keep going, keep looking for answers. Don't stop. It'll break, even you break or it breaks, and I'm not going to break. So I suggest you do the same. All right, everyone. Have a wonderful day. Stay blessed. Stay amazing. And also, I may possibly, once I get the information, I will make that video and I'll give more information on that so that you can see what it is and does. And keep in mind, what I'm looking at is kind of a rare disease. It is not, if it is that, it is not common. So it's not something that most people would have that would have caused liver cirrhosis. So I'm just special, I guess. And again, thank you to everybody who has helped me out in the past with my GoFundMe and all that stuff, because it has been a battle and it has been a journey. Everyone, you guys are so amazing. And I every last one of you, your encouragement, and I'm going to try to get back to more comments, and I just haven't been able to get to a lot of them. I've been hitting them here and there. So I'm going to spend some time over the next few days to start responding to some more of those. All right. Thank you so much. Take care and stay blessed.